High above the town of Athens, Ohio, a massive Victorian complex looms over the landscape, its red brick walls and towering spires casting long shadows that stretch into the town below. This is the former Athens Lunatic Asylum, now known as The Ridges, a place where whispers echo through empty halls and secrets linger in every shadow. Together, we'll reach back into its history and explore the grounds, unraveling 150 years of stories to understand not just what happened here, but what can still be explored today. The story begins on a cold November day in 1868. Imagine thousands of townspeople, a brass band playing, marching across the Hocking River and up the hill for the cornerstone laying ceremony. For them, this wasn't just another building. It was a beacon of hope, a source of jobs, a symbol of progress. It was the 5th mental hospital in Ohio, promising modern treatment for those suffering in silence. The building itself is a testament to Victorian ambition. Architect Levi T. Schofield was just 26 when he secured the contract. The price tag? $621,000, or the equivalent of $13.4 million today. Construction took 6 years and more than 18.5 million bricks, all crafted and fired on the grounds. The result was monumental. 853 feet long and designed to house 572 patients, more than double what experts recommended. But this wasn't meant to be a prison. The entire design followed what was called the Kirkbride Plan, named after Dr. Thomas Story Kirkbride. His revolutionary idea? That mental illness could be treated with compassion, not confinement. The long, staggering wings you see today were built so every patient's room would receive sunlight and fresh air. The high ceilings and towering windows weren't merely architectural flourishes. They were considered therapeutic. When the asylum opened its doors in January 1874, its first patient was a 14-year-old girl with epilepsy. At the time, seizures were often misunderstood and stigmatized. The hospital's early recordings read like a catalog of 19th century misconceptions. Women were committed for female troubles or menstrual derangements. Civil War veterans arrived suffering from what we now recognize as PTSD. One man was admitted because he punched a horse and was talking to animals. Life here was intended to have a purpose. The asylum evolved into a self-sustaining community. By the 1880s, it expanded to over 1,000 acres with numerous buildings. Patients worked farms, tended orchards, and assisted in the dairy barn. In 1886 alone, they produced 11,000 heads of cabbage, 1,070 bushels of pumpkins, and enough apple butter to fill 262 gallons. The philosophy was that meaningful work could aid in healing. The grounds were as significant as the building itself. Designed according to the therapeutic principles of the Kirkbride Plan, they featured winding paths, peaceful gardens, and serene landscapes intended to soothe the mind. Everything was planned to create a healing environment. By the 1950s, however, this haven of moral treatment had changed. The hospital was overcrowded with 1,800 patients, far exceeding its intended capacity. This is where our story takes its darkest turn. Enter Dr. Walter Freeman, the man who popularized the lobotomy in America. Freeman visited Athens regularly during the 1950s as part of his nationwide promotion of the transorbital lobotomy, the infamous ice pick procedure. Dr. Wolfhard Warmoth, who witnessed these visits in 1954, provided a chilling account. Freeman would perform up to 20 procedures a day, one after another. Without the need for an operating room, he used electroshock to render patients unconscious. With unsettling calm, he'd insert an ice pick-like tool under the patient's eyelid, tap it through the thin bone with a hammer, and sweep it to sever connections in the frontal lobe. The entire procedure took minutes. He made it look easy, Warmoth recalled. I thought, How can a man be so relaxed while blindly venturing into the brain? The patients who survived were irrevocably changed. There was something missing. Emotions, he noted. If you converse with someone, there's always emotion involved. Remove that and what's left? The human cost of these experiments and of the asylum's entire history is evident in the cemeteries on the grounds. Nearly 2,000 patients rest here. For decades, many graves were marked only with numbers. A final erasure of identity that recent preservation efforts aim to correct. Among them lie 80 veterans, 2 from the Mexican-American War, 68 from the Civil War, 3 from the Spanish-American War, and 7 who served in World War I. By the 1980s, times were changing. The massive asylums of the Victorian era were being replaced by smaller community treatment centers. The Athens Lunatic Asylum, which had undergone several name changes over the years, finally closed its doors in 1993. Unlike many similar institutions that were abandoned or demolished, this one found a new purpose. Ohio University acquired the property, transforming it into what we now call the Ridges. The main building houses the Kennedy Museum of Art. The dairy barn, where patients once labored, has become an art center. The Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Affairs occupies several buildings. Walking paths now crisscross the grounds where patients once sought solace. Today, the Ridges invites visitors to reflect on its storied past while enjoying the natural beauty that surrounds it. The area offers several trails and walkways that wind through its expansive grounds. One of these is the River Valley Nature Trail, a brief 2/3 mile loop ideal for a short walk amidst nature. Then there's the Ridges Cemetery Nature Walk, a 1.3 mile trail beginning at the Dairy Barn on Dairy Lane, which passes through all 3 historic cemeteries on the property. Additionally, the old gravel roadways that once connected parts of the asylum now serve as walking routes, leading to sites like Radar Hill, the highest point on the property, named after a World War II radar installation that once stood there. These trails vary in difficulty and offer glimpses of diverse wildlife, historic cemeteries, and remnants of the original healing environment. Access is straightforward from downtown Athens, making it easy for visitors to immerse themselves in both history and nature. Stand at the right spot at sunset and you'll understand why they chose this hill. Those same windows that were meant to heal troubled minds now reflect the golden light. The massive towers cast long shadows over grounds that have witnessed both the best and worst of our efforts to treat mental illness. The Athens Lunatic Asylum isn't just another abandoned hospital, and the Ridges isn't merely a university complex. This place stands as a monument to how far we've come in mental health care, and how far we still have to go. In its 150-year history, you can trace the evolution of how we've treated and mistreated those struggling with mental illness. For visitors today, the Ridges offers a chance to connect with this complex history. The Kennedy Museum of Art is open during regular hours, and the Dairy Barn Art Center hosts exhibitions throughout the year. While unrestricted access to the building's interior isn't available, you can walk the grounds, visit the cemeteries, and follow the nature trails that wind through what was once designed as a place of healing. As you walk these grounds, remember, every brick, every path, every tree is part of someone's story. From the hopeful vision of moral treatment to the desperate measures of the lobotomy era, from the patients in numbered graves to the students who now walk these halls, the Athens Lunatic Asylum continues to hold these stories, even as new chapters unfold. This is a place that deserves to be remembered, not just for its imposing architecture or its darker moments, but for what it teaches about humanity, our attempts to heal, our capacity for both compassion and cruelty, and our ongoing journey to understand and treat mental illness with the dignity it deserves.